Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about how public signs are translated with a specific focus on Skopos theory, a, functional, a functionalist translation approach. We will also explore how this theory helps us make signs more effective, culturally appropriate, and understandable across languages, especially when translating between English and Indonesia. Translating public signs means rendering concise, functional messages from one language to another, designed for public spaces such as streets, airports, parks, hospitals, and websites. These signs must be clear and easily understood, short and direct, or brevity, culturally appropriate, functionally equivalent, not just linguistically. Let's now discuss the theories who really helped develop this approach. Her name is Christiane Nord. She is a German translation scholar born in 1943, known for refining Skopos theory alongside Hans Vermeer. She also wrote the book Text Analysis in Translation, published in 1988. She also worked as a professor, researcher, and translator trainer. She believed that translators should be treated as professionals, making smart decisions based on purpose, audience, and culture, not just dictionaries. Her works highlights the translator's responsibility to be intercultural mediator, someone who bridges differences and ensures the message works both in language. Scopus theory comes in the Greek word scopus, meaning purpose or goal. This theory was introduced by Hans Vermeer in the late 1970s and later expanded by Christiane Nord. According to Skopos theory, there are four things to take notes on during public signage translation, which are brevity, function, and cultural adaptation. And also, the goal of a translation determines how it should be done. This is especially useful when we're not just translating words, but adapting function, tone, and meaning for a new audience. It's not about translating every word literally, but about what the message is supposed to achieve. In public signage, that goal might be to warn, instruct, or guide people.
So, translating public sign by using theory focuses on function, audience, brevity, and clarity, which are the focus of Skopos theory, which holds several key purposes. The first one is to translate for purpose, not word for word or literal. Second is prioritize brevity and clarity. Second is the next one is respect cultural norms in the target language, and the last one is adapt expressions to fit real life usage, for example, idioms or warnings. Next on, what is brevity itself? What is actually brevity? We have already mentioned brevity words in the previous slides. So brevity means being concise, which means using the fewest words possible while still being clear and effective. And this is extremely important in public signage because people first will be often passed by quickly, are distracted or busy, and may not speak the local language well. For example, a sign that says, "We would like to kindly remind you to refrain from smoking in this area," is overly wordy. Yeah, it conveys a good messages, but it's overly wordy. Instead, Skopos theory encourages us to use a more direct and functional version to be no smoking. So basically, brevity ensures clarity, avoids confusion, and respects the public's limited attention span. So we already have take a look for the real life examples of public signage says in saying. So how does it look like? How does it applies in real life media? So Scopus theory and brevity apply not just in physical signs, but in digital and social spaces too. So there are some examples here. The first one is transportation systems. So in train stations, airports, and bus terminals rely heavily on translated signs that must be clear and immediate. For example, here, emergency exit in English, into pintu darurat in Indonesian. Second example is on mobile apps or interfaces. So basically, UI text must be minimal and action driven. So buttons like retry are translated to coba lagi, keeping it to be intuitive. And then the next one is tourism and public spaces sign. So places like museums, parks, and cultural sites use signs that mix hospitality with warning. So there are two examples here. The first one is in English, please do not touch the exhibit. The second one is in Indonesian example, jangan sentuh benda pameran. So in all cases, Skopos theory helps ensure that translated sign achieves the same impact even if the wording differs. And then the next slide is the vice versa. In Indonesian, it says mohon siram setelah digunakan, which is usually a public signs in the toilet or the public toilet that translated into please flush after use in English. So the Skopos strategy here is polite hygiene reminder. The next one is hati-hati jalan licin, which translated into caution, slippery road. The Skopos strategy here is standard road warning. And then the next one is, it says silakan ambil nomor antrian Anda. In English, it says please take a queue number. And strategy applied here is instructional and formal. The next one is gunakan masker demi kesehatan bersama, translated into wear a mask for everyone's safety. The strategy applied here is public health and community centered. And then the last one is dilarang menginjak rumput in Indonesian, which translated into keep off the grass in English. So it applies a culturally appropriate idiom. So some of this, like dilarang menginjak rumput, cannot be translated directly as it is forbidden to step on the grass because it sounds robotic, right? So we have to adjust the tone to fit the natural English usage. So in result, it becomes keep off the grass. So here are few examples of English to Indonesian translation in public sign. Here are the real life examples. For example, the first one, we have already discussed this, mind the gap translated into hati-hati celah in Indonesian. So the Skopos theory strategy used is safety and quick alert. The next example is retry connection, which being translated into coba lagi atau or ulangi koneksi. The strategy applied here is UI or UX brevity, so it deals with the interface of mobile apps or maybe websites. And then the next one is keep out of reach of children. That translated into jauhkan dari jangkauan anak-anak. And the strategy applied here is safety clarity. The following example is, please do not leave your belongings unattended. Unattended here isn't translated into tidak dihadiri, but it translated into jangan tinggalkan barang bawaan Anda. Don't leave your belongings alone. So the strategy here is instruction and respectful tone. And then the last one example is wash your hands before eating, translated into cuci tangan sebelum makan. And then the strategy of Skopos applied here is hygiene and universal clarity. So notice how all of these are short, clear, and purposeful. The translations aren't word for word, but they are shaped to fit the local language's natural flow while keeping the function intact. Next, why does we have to apply Scopus theory while we're translating the public signs? Now let's think about public signs in airports, hospitals, streets, and apps. These are all places where people need to quickly understand important information, which sometimes in a language that they don't fully speak. So basically, Scopus theory helps by encouraging us to ask who is the target reader, what is the function of the text, where will the text be seen, and when is the message relevant. So it helps translator adapt, not only copy. For example, in English, the public sign says mind the gap. And in Indonesia, it is translated into hati-hati celah. Here, mind isn't literally translated as pikiran because that doesn't make sense culturally. So hati-hati carries the same wording tone as the mind word. In conclusion, translating public signs is more than just changing languages. It's about ensuring understanding, preserving function, and adapting culturally. Skopos theory gives us a practical, real-world method to guide this process. So basically, Skopos theory holds these key principles. First one is think about purpose, not just words. Use brevity to respect the reader's time. And then the last one is be sensitive to tone, culture, and context. Whether you are a translator, a language student, or just someone navigating the world, Skopos theory shows how language works in action.